right, it's the KwinnPop podcast. I'm Peter W. Dawson.
I'm James Bullock.
And we are here to talk about video games and movies. No TV, but we talked about Westworld last week, so, we're good.
Yeah. I'm still reeling from that, honestly.
I'm still confused.
My brain still doesn't function properly anymore.
It's gone from hamster wheel to just like a candle burning slowly at the wick. Here's your visual. But besides that, James, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, but I have to ask you one thing, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be a Sicario?
Not really. Kind of seems like it sucks. The job, we'll get to that. But before that, there's something we need to chomp in on.
Okay.
And that's State of Decay 2.
Rah, 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 rah.
Yep. How I say chomp. Here's the trick. Zombie bites man, that's old hat. Car bites zombie, that's the new sadness. And, oh man, State of Decay. Okay, so, the original State of Decay came out in 2013, and
Right.
It ended up being kind of a sleeper hit because it initially sold okay. Like, I met one of the developers, and he said the goal was like 20,000 copies. And they ended up breaking almost 1 million, like, in a year.
Yeah. It was a big hit on the, it was one of those things that kind of made, like, the Xbox Arcade a big deal at the time.
Yeah, because that was a big hit on the Xbox indie market, and it later came out on Steam as well, where it did pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So it ended up popping out pretty well. It's an open world zombie survival thing where there's a lot of strategic elements as well as third person combat action type stuff. Equipment durability, scrounging for loot, all that stuff. Right. Making sure everyone lives. And
even though they had some moments of mandatory, you have to kill this person.
Oh, yeah.
Just to put it over the top, just to make sure you understand just how terrible this world is you're living in now.
Yeah, but you can still do stuff like ship to the campers together, so it's not all bad.
That's true.
I think there's an achievement for that.
I was about to say there's actually an achievement for that.
It's like lovers in a dangerous time. I had to get a little BNL in there, of course. But, so this one came out just May 22nd.
Yeah.
This is State of Decay 2.
For my birthday. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Nice birthday present for you, eh?
It was a nice birthday present. I loved the first one. I really did. And I did a first impression video for State of Decay 2 for KwinnPop, of course. And I loved a lot of what State of Decay 2 offered. Because, in a lot of ways, just a better version of the first one.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, one of the critiques, you mentioned this to me before, is that the multiplayer doesn't really impress you.
Yeah, that was one of the big deals that they made an effort to try to implement in this game. I mean, even in the announced trailer, it was like they're focused on the fact that you can have 4 players teaming up together and killing a whole bunch of zombies. But it's really weird because they wanted to protect the host player. Because if you're playing as the host, the people that are playing with you could get your resources if they just did it normally. But they wanted to protect the host player's resources, so whatever the people that have joined the game they bring in, that's all they can have. They can't take anything with them, and they're pretty much essentially helping the host player complete the game.
Yeah.
So if you leave and go back to your game, it's just like you left it before you started the multiplayer, which is kind of disappointing because there's no real progress for anybody but the host player.
Yeah, so it frowns upon the idea of doing rando team-ups.
Right.
Which isn't inherently bad, but it kind of disincentivizes even, team-ups with people you know to a degree.
Exactly, because unless you have a friend that is like, oh, I'm just perfectly fine with you getting everything done on your playthrough, and then we, maybe do another one with my playthrough.
Yeah.
Then it's okay, but then there's always that question of, okay, if we enjoyed a little bit and we got through a playthrough, do we want to do it all over again?
I know, right? That's the problem. So, and not to mention, if you're stuck with what you have, if what you have isn't very good.
Right.
So you have to potentially consider about going back and forth. So as a result, yeah, the multiplayer can leave a little bit to be desired. But the core gameplay is still pretty good. You still got, the glory of cars. You've still got to watch out for the hordes. You've still got all the different weapons. Oh, so many weapons.
Oh, man, so many weapons in this one. They've added a lot of decoy elements now with firecrackers are already in the game, but now you have like actual fireworks that are rockets. You have actual human decoy that make like very similar to Metal Gear Solid,
Yeah.
where they do the audible decoy. You throw a little human decoy out there, and that can distract the zombies for a little bit.
I forget which one of the original developers it was. I want to say it was James Finney from the original game. He mentioned it being
Okay.
a bit of a gun nut. So I don't think he did anything on this one really, but that would explain where the series got its little obsession with all the different firearms and stuff.
Yeah.
Not that I appreciate detail.
Yeah, yeah, and the thing about it, just like you said earlier, it's a survival horror game, so even though you get a lot of guns, don't expect a lot of ammunition.
Yep.
Unless you start building up your bases, which is really the draw when it comes to State of Decay.
Yeah, the base building mechanic is pretty well involved, but it's not so deep it just becomes a slog.
Right.
Like, I think it's like the right level.
It's and for those who haven't played it, it's one of those things where it's not like a Minecraft or even Fallout 4, where you can just kind of like build whatever you see in your mind as to the best of your abilities. Like each base that you go to has a set standard of slots where you can put either like an infirmary or a garden or for like we were talking about ammo, a weapon shop that you can actually make your own ammo. So they have these specific number of slots that you can fill in, but it's really up to you to get all the resources to get those slots and get those buildings built, which is the big deal about the game, because having to go out and get resources is a lot difficult to me, even more so now, since they have the technology and the ability to put a lot more zombies on screen than they did in the first one.
Yep. So it can be a little more frantic than the original, which is
Yes.
probably for the best, because the original could be kind of easy at points.
Yeah, it really could. I actually, thanks to the Xbox Game Pass, I started replaying the Year One edition of State of Decay, which is the original base game. And I was just noticing a few things that are different, and I noticed just how lacking a lot of the zombies are in the game. Like, I'm shocked compared to coming back to 2, how little there are of zombies around in 1.
Yep. I mean, the hordes are still a threat, but I mean, if you plow through them with a card, you're fine.
Right.
And that was always your best weapon in the game, was cars.
Yeah, and that's a big difference in the second one, too, is the fact that in this game, the cars actually need gas.
Yep.
So, if you want to go, and that was one thing I found out really early. I tried to jump into a van, and it just wasn't working. And I'm wondering what's going on. And I look, and then I go to the back of the van, and it shows you, no, this van is empty, and you have to go get gas if you want to drive right now. So, I love that implementation because of the realism, but sometimes it's a little annoying. We have to go across a map, and you just don't have enough fuel.
Are you sure it wasn't just that you stepped into the vehicle and then William Daniels says, like, I'm sorry, you're not Michael Knight? That could happen.
Hey, we have technology enough to make zombies. I don't know what's going on. We still don't know really the answer.
Yeah, and then you're yelling at the car saying, "Damn it, Feeney!" Then you get out. For those of you playing at home, William Daniels was both the voice of Kit in Knight Rider and Feeney in Boy Meets World. Yeah, that's what that was.
Yeah, that's your pop culture reference for the day.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
We'll see.
We may have another one coming because I'm probably gonna drop a few when we get to the movie. But
okay.
Like, yeah, no, there's not much else to say about the game. I think, at least in terms of gameplay, because it's similar to the first one, but it's a little harder because they can spawn more zombies.
Right.
But the extra details are still pretty nice for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, they're super manageable.
Very much so. It really is jumping in, especially if you played the first one. You pretty much jump into this one, it just feels like old times. There's a couple of things that I noticed that are removed, which I didn't notice until I replayed the Year One. Like, one thing they removed from this game was the ability to hide in bushes.
Yeah.
Like in the first game, you could hide in a bush and you would be undetected. That's gone in 2, so it just makes it a lot harder.
Oh yeah.
But I guess because there's a lot of rocks around, I guess you can't hide in bushes in this game, so it makes sense.
No, but it's okay. Rock beats paper.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure most zombies are still made out of paper, right?
That's true.
My study of anatomy has told me this.
Except for Juggernauts.
Oh, yeah.
Which In this game, they do not like cars to the same extent of the first game. The first game, you could bump them and they'd be like Humpty Dumpty.
Yep.
This game, no. You hit them, they're destroying your car. I love it.
Yep, no, exactly. And this is great because it's a game with permadeath.
Right. Oh, my goodness, we didn't even mention that. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's something we probably should have mentioned when we talked about the first one because that it also had that. Yeah, your characters are... you got to be careful.
Very much so.
I was going to say, it's just a tense atmosphere.
Yeah. I've had... In one new edition, we also have to mention it, too, is the Blood Plague, which is just like the same thing in the first one, but now they actually give you, like, red-eyed zombies and stuff, and you got to destroy these little cores that are randomly scattered throughout the map to get rid of the Blood Plague.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy when you're trying to get rid of those plague hearts to stop the Blood Plague to get overwhelmed and have a character torn apart. It is so easy. So
you're sure they're red eyes and not pink eye?
Good point.
I'm just saying the sources could just be fart producers.
Well, I mean, if you've killed a plague heart, you've seen those parts where the plague heart actually expels a lot of gas. So
I stand by my suggestion.
You might be on
It's just zombie pink eye.
It's just zombie pink eye. That's why they're so angry.
I mean, you combine a bare ass fart with necrosis. I mean, that's bad even in real life.
Yeah, that's just infections waiting to happen.
A plane had to get evacuated because a guy ended up suffering from necrosis while he was on the plane.
Yeah, so Peter might be onto something. They haven't revealed it. They've just been saying blood plague and red-eyed zombies, but in reality, it's just zombie pink eye.
Yep, that's all it is.
We
cracked the code, James.
We cracked it. Wow.
Another mystery solved by the Fashion Files. There you go, another pop culture reference.
Another pop culture reference. There we go.
All right. Well, I think we've put it off long enough. Do you want to dive into the thing I didn't really notice this because I haven't played it as much as you have. So do you want to bring up what happened that's unfortunately going to taint this review a bit?
Yeah. When I did my first impressions, of course I was watching other reviews and people were talking about how glitchy it was and how terrible the frame rate and everything was. And I was like, hey, first few hours, I'm not having those kind of troubles. I'm in pretty good shape right now. And then they dropped that 20 gig patch. That was the second patch. That's bigger than the game, mind you. The game was like 19 gigs and the patch was 20. So, first two patches, I'm actually in pretty good shape. Third patch drops, which I believe was like 5 gigs. And try to load the game up after it's been patched, and black screen.
They got you.
So I'm thinking that maybe I just need to restart my Xbox. I'll be in good shape. Nope, that's not what happened. So, looking on the internet, find out that a lot of people have had this issue, and the only way they solved it was by reinstalling the entire game. So I had to do that, and then the fourth patch popped, and the same thing happened. So I had to reinstall this game 3 times now, just to get it to function.
It's fine. It's not like American internet doesn't have problems, right?
Right. And this is why we don't want all streaming consoles, people.
Nope.
To top it off, when it comes to the actual gameplay and some of the issues, there have been a lot in terms of just random stuff happening. Like, I can deal with some graphical stuff happening for glitches. Like, I've had a couple people fall through the floor. I've had random fires break out after throwing a Molotov that died down, and then you walk over where the Molotov was thrown, and then my character just bursts out into flames. I have had those moments, but the biggest moments definitely have to be, like, followers just disappearing.
Well,
NPCs disappearing. And then, of course, my all-time favorite, just trucks. Military-sized vehicles being unable to get around the most smallest pebbles without doing, like, a complete flip into the air. Like, those kind of things.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's just one of those things, like, despite the fact it's a major release, they just can't seem to nail it.
Right, and the sad part about it, like I said, I really do enjoy the game. It's one of those things that I love the first one. Even with the glitches in the first one, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't anything that was game-breaking or made me want to quit. Like Fable 3, oh my goodness. I could go on a long rant with that, but I won't.
Why don't we have a little discussion about the fact that your followers keep disappearing instead?
Yeah.
Because you know what I'm thinking.
What?
I hate to say it, but your character may not be like Joseph Stalin or Kennedy. He's not a cult of personality.
Maybe.
Cult
well, they're coming to me telling me that we need, and they're telling me that we need to kill someone. I mean, I thought we were going to stick together in this thing.
No. Just gonna have to live with it, man.
I'm saying to go alone. I'm going to go alone with this one. I don't care if. I guess they don't care if I get even lives like, hey, I'm in the community now. I can take over. Maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe that the followers are leaving to try to let you die so they can usurp your position.
Or they're just waiting for Country Road to take them home. Sorry, I'm in a real pop culture reference mood right now. Like the followers disappearing, maybe think of cult of personality, and then and there's like, oh yeah, they're going their own way. It's like instead of saying go your own way, it's like, why don't I just drop another country, take me home, Country Road?
So I know somebody's excited.
Yeah. Well,
November is not that far away, Peter.
Not so much me, but I did pay for the song. That was a good cover, and it gets them money for Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah.
But State of Decay
overall, overall, I think it's a fun game that if you play the original, you'll probably love this one. But the only thing I just can't wholeheartedly recommend it because it's so broken at times. Like, it's a crapshoot. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. When you play it, it's a crapshoot. Sometimes you might have a good 2 or 3 hour session with no problems and cut it off, cut it back on, and then the next time it's just a mess. Like, that's my biggest issue with State of Decay 2. Like, if it just could iron out those bugs somehow, it doesn't have to be perfect, because the first one wasn't. But if it just had a little bit of consistency, I think I'd be a lot happier with it overall.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, we're good to move on.
I hate to be such a downer on it, but Microsoft, I mean, that was one of the reasons I got an Xbox One. Really, no joke. Like, State of Decay 2 was one of the main reasons I got an Xbox One. So, I do enjoy it. It's just, man.
Join the PCs.
I know. They're giving me every reason. I don't know about Xbox. Well, I guess maybe Xbox 2. This would be like 2 Xbox One stacked on top of each other. Like, that would be the
with a little Nintendo Switch in the middle.
No, that would be like the front part of it. It'll be just like you can remove.
Right, sorry, it's like the garnish, you know.
Yeah.
The pickle on the toothpick, yeah. We're just painting a wonderful picture.
I know, of our next gen consoles.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it'll be great.
PS5 is gonna be like an actual big 5. Like, that's gonna be
a joke though. If I had like a TV and then I had like this giant entertainment console, it's like PS4, PS3, PS2, PS1, Super Nintendo, Nintendo Switch, you know, just like in a row, I would.
Right.
I have a friend who kind of has something like that, and I'm already super jealous of him, and I'm just like, man.
I just got like a little stand with my Xbox One sitting beside my SNES Classic now, so I'm happy.
Yeah, mine's just got my my Raspberry Pi and then my PS4. I don't even have my PS3 plugged in anymore.
I still have my PS3 plugged in. It's good for media.
Yeah, probably.
It's my media player now. It's become my media player now.
Well, because my smart TV is integrated with my PS4. Because they're both Sony products.
Right.
So my remote on my TV works on my PS4.
Okay.
Which is cool because the PS4 still doesn't have a good media remote from what I've seen.
Yeah, no, they're still lacking when it comes to that.
Yeah, so that worked out for me. But speaking of things not exactly working out for people.
Oh, man.
Sicario, Day of the Soldado.
Yes.
Okay, so the original Sicario came out in 2015. And it's a really dark film. It's a pretty good film. We should probably.
It's weird because it kind of has like a cult classic status.
Yeah, I know this is real confusing, but we should probably dive into it, and we should probably just go for spoilers on this one because there's not too much to spoil.
What part?
Oh, just the original. I'm talking about the original.
Oh yeah, we can go through that.
Yeah, we can spoil the original because it's been 3 years.
It really doesn't tie that much into the second one. So.
Not really. It just gives you the backstory of the characters.
Yeah.
And even then, we don't have that much backstory. Well, okay, Benicio we do. Benicio del Toro is Alejandro Gilic?
Yes.
Gilic? I can't remember how it's pronounced.
I would say Gilic, yeah.
Yeah, because, you gotta have the...
You gotta have a little bit of that accent to it.
Yeah. And then,
Los Gringos.
Yep. And meanwhile, Matt Graver, Josh Brolin, who's kind of a hippie douche CIA special operations dude.
He's not a hippie at all. He's just a douche.
I'm just talking about the fact that he constantly wears socks and sandals.
It doesn't matter. He's so hardcore.
It's true.
He's a dude bro if there ever was one.
I suppose, yeah. I don't know. I'm just thinking about his more aloof tendencies, especially in the first film. But so the plot of the original has Emily Blunt's character. She's just a regular cop, right?
Right.
Yeah, but she does like drug task force stuff. She gets involved in a hunt for cartel leaders after they find a house full of dead bodies, and she gets involved with Graver, whose partner is Alejandro, and Alejandro turns out has a very complicated past, and as we slowly learn, his family got killed by the cartel, and he's trying to help establish a unified cartel so that the Mexican cartels won't be fighting each other.
Right.
It'll just be one controlled cartel, because they don't think they can eliminate cartels entirely. That's kind of the whole thing. And and Emily Blunt seems initially under the impression they're trying to do some good, and she doesn't necessarily feel what this operation is doing is some good, which is why she's not in this movie, because her arc was pretty much done at the end of the first one.
Right, I was about to say that was a major difference between this one and the first one, was the fact we kind of had that character that was kind of put off by the idea of what they were trying to perform.
Yep.
Instead of them trying to wipe out all the cartels, they're like, hey, we can control them, and it just really messed her up.
Yeah, well, it doesn't help. And she's the fish out of water, even though she's kind of the tough badass cop. But this actually ties into one of the two things that kind of annoyed me about that movie. Because I liked Sicario in general, and I appreciated how dark they go. Because
I think
spoiler,
the darkness.
Spoiler,
the darkness of the whole
no one
movie.
is safe from getting shot.
No, that's the thing. I think that's what stuck with me the most, was the fact that it felt so unforgiving when it came to the character.
It was very Kaiser Soze.
Yeah.
But that's your usual suspects reference, and I'm going to make more references later, trust me, because when it comes to the plot of this movie, I can pretty much sum it up with two different movie references, but we'll get to that in a second. So, talking about the original, though, the big thing is that I wanted to quickly mention for the first one, the two things that kind of bugged me were that Emily Blunt's character, well, obviously important from a plot perspective, and for, as a viewpoint character, I don't feel she did enough.
No, you could put her with you could have put that character with anybody else. It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, I think the thing that annoyed me the most is they established she was smart enough to realize that John Bernthal's character in the first film was going to try and kill her, but she still nearly got killed.
Right.
I kind of would have preferred it if she had him, and that's when they busted in and they're like, don't kill him. Because, they were hoping to lure in the character so they could figure out who the corrupt cops are, etc.
Exactly.
Which was the whole thing. And that scene in particular, I think, is the scene that might have, if they tweaked it a bit, might have been for the better. And the other one that really annoyed me was we had this whole... We have an interesting thing where we keep seeing this dude who's hanging out with his son in the morning, and he's going to go do a job, and we don't understand what he does. And we slowly learn he's a corrupt Mexican cop who then just gets callously killed at the end of the film.
Right.
And it's kind of a frame device to show, this dude we just saw casually die, he had a whole life story. And indeed, one of the final characters we see is his widow, as we see day-to-day life in this area of Mexico. So there was a point to this. I think they cut to it too often. And they were just really long and very dragged out scenes.
Yeah.
It's we're going to watch him eat eggs in real time. Well, that's gross.
Yeah, it was very similar to, I believe, what was it? Wasn't it in Logan? With the family that we just randomly kept seeing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They focused on that family more because, they eventually went somewhere with them.
Right, but maybe it wasn't Logan, it was another movie. I know what you're saying. It's just kind of weird that, we're trying to get this point across,
Yeah, but they did. They hit it. They hit the nail too hard. Bent the nail a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It still holds the film together because I mean, I do appreciate how dark it is. It was like, see this guy? He's he has a whole life. He has a son he cares about. He has a loving wife. Yeah, he's dead now. That's a solid dark bit. I'm not gonna fault them for the the end. I'm just saying the build up was probably too much.
Right.
But that's that film. Now we're talking about Sicario 2, which does involve a fair number of the same people. Like I said, Benicio and Josh Brolin in particular are back. And, yeah, this one is more of... Okay, I can sum this up pretty easily by saying it's a mashup of two movies. It basically is a mashup of Yojimbo and Leon the Professional. So Yojimbo, for those who don't know, is a classic samurai film where Ronin walks into town, and a master of the samurai wanders into town and plays two criminal sides against each other, so they wipe each other out. So he basically out-tricks them into killing each other. Meanwhile, Leon the Professional is the story of a hitman who befriends a young girl who basically helps humanize him. That's it about right so far, James?
To a certain extent, but I don't want to spoil, too much on certain aspects, like kind of switch it around. But
yeah,
I thought you were actually going to say Sicario 2 was like a bullet point presentation of Sicario 1.
To a degree, yeah.
Yeah.
There's also that.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that. Like, I can sum this up. And okay, we talked a lot about the plot in the first one. Well, I just talked a lot about the plot in the second one.
Yep.
There's a few little details here and there that are different.
Well, yeah, because there's a terrorist plot.
Yeah, but okay, not to spoil too much, but honestly, it doesn't even matter.
It really doesn't.
It doesn't. I mean, it happens early in the movie, so it's not that much of a spoiler. But it's one of those things like to introduce the idea of just how vicious Josh Brolin's characters will be.
Yep.
And that's really it.
If anything, it gives him a motivation to be even more vicious than usual.
Right. Like, that's really it.
And, potentially has unfortunate implications because of how casually they brush that aside.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a movie that's not going to be very PC.
No, not at all.
Because we're talking about, vicious drug cartels, which we know are a real thing. Because, well, just look at the recent Mexican election.
Exactly.
An alarm when the number of politicians is getting killed is more than 3, you've got a problem. And well, I'm not saying Mexico is a world rife with crime, but I mean the Mexican cartels have a pretty bad reputation.
Yeah.
So just got to keep that in mind going into this. Oh man, they're not afraid to depict them as being just the worst.
Yeah, they really do, and even their offspring.
Yep. Yeah. So the main plot is essentially just a combination of, the original film, and then you got a bit of Yojimbo element, you got a bit of Leon the Professional, especially because we got the character of we meet a little younger girl. How old is she again?
I want to say 12, but she's older.
well, the actress is 16, so she might be
playing
like
exactly.
14 or something.
But I think they put across like she was 12 or so.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, the actress is 16, so it's like one of those things. It's like, look at this 24-year-old who's only 16.
16, yeah. She's still in high school.
One of my favorite joke narrations ever is like, later, when the son is 18 but looks 38.
It's the tale of Luke Perry.
Exactly. Yeah, but getting into the actual meat of things, the action in this is just as gloriously dark and gritty as the original.
Oh yeah, there's one, and that was the thing that kind of kept me hooked when it came to the first, I want to say, act and a half of the movie, was just how gritty and brutal it had gotten so quickly.
Yeah, and we got a bunch of bullseye performances from some of my favorite actors. Benicio's still pretty great in the lead role.
Mm-hmm.
Brolin's having a pretty good year.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is Brolin's year, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, for goodness sakes, between Cable, Thanos, and now Graver's back. I mean,
yeah, it was actually a running joke running through the theater. Like everybody was saying, why can't Thanos just snap his fingers and terrorism will go away?
Well, yeah, you could probably do it. And then we had a couple of other favorites of mine. because Catherine Keener showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she's pretty solid in this one. It's nice to see her. Of course, ever since Get Out, she's kind of been terrifying to a degree.
Yeah.
Don't talk to her too much. It's a trap.
I know. It's not gonna end well.
No, you're just gonna end up hanging out with a girl who eats Fruit Loops before drinking milk.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, because apparently that wasn't symbolism. And then, Matthew Modine.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that Matthew Modine is now showing up in like everything.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like it's like somebody turned to someone else the other day and they're like, "Hey, we need a guy from like the late '80s, early '90s who could play a lot of awesome villains." Is Matthew Modine still around? Yep. Let's get him out here. That's pretty much what happened. They just kind of trotted him out, which is funny because
he's like that. He's like that buzzword now that everybody's using, and that's the description of him.
Well, it's because
anybody thinks of that description, like he's the first name that pops up now.
Yeah, in a few years, it's going to be like, if you're wondering who the villain is, spoiler, Matthew Modine's in the movie. much like how nowadays it's like, if you're wondering who the villain is, spoiler, Ed Harris is in the movie.
Right.
Which is pretty much a thing now, so I mean, I can't remember the last time he played a good guy.
No, I really can't.
It's got to be Apollo 13 or well, no, he was still kind of the villain in.
Yeah, I was about to say he still kind of had that evil side to him.
In what am I thinking of? I can't even think of the movie now. Oh, Truman Show. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about this movie. I'm just sorry. I'm getting chuckle out of the fact that Matthew Modine is now like, we need him to be like the older villain dude.
Right, he's that guy now.
Well, he's got the way he's aged. He's already had kind of the sweet scowl, and now it's just like his brow is so naturally furrowed. It's like it's really easy to buy him as a villain. Because before, like when he was younger, he had like the big chin and everything, but he was kind of baby faced, so he kind of felt like the more American Cary Elwes. And now it's just like, oh no, he's a villain. But any other performances you want to call out?
No, not really. Like the one, it was the complete opposite. A stand-up performance that did a really good job was Elijah Rodriguez, who's the Miguel character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt so ham-fisted. Like,
it's even worse because he's basically there for sequel bait.
Right, and that's what hurt. And I know you were, before we started doing the audio, you were surprised when I was like, "Oh, this is going to be me not being too happy today with the outcome of what we're talking about." And that was one of the main reasons why I fell out with this movie.
That's fair. I mean, I still think the movie's pretty strong despite it.
I think it was good. It's funny, like the first act and a half, I really enjoyed the movie. And then there were portions between in Act 2 and Act 3 that I really liked. It heightened up in Act 3. And it was kind of like I had a Yakuza 6 experience where I thought they were going to do something, and then they did it, and then they didn't go through with it all the way. But even with them not going through with it all the way, there was a moment before and this is a minor spoiler because you won't know exactly what I mean until you see the movie, but there is a section very at the end of the movie that's a 1 year later sequence.
Yeah, that's the sequel bait right there.
Yeah. And to me, honestly, if they had stopped it before that, because there was a scene right before it that I thought was fantastic, it was gritty, it was brutal, and if they ended the movie right then, I would have been like, man, that was a real big chance to take.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, okay, this guy went through this, did this, and this happened. And you end the movie there. To me, like, that would have been a high note for me. And then it was like, nope, 1 year later. I just rolled my eyes like, oh my goodness, really?
Yeah, that scene was pretty pointless.
Yeah, like that's what really hurt the movie for me, because I thought it ended on such a great part right before that.
Mm. Yeah, because the arc with the other characters. Oh, don't worry, there's plenty of people who get traumatized in this movie.
Yeah, the Isabella character, that, which ironically enough is her first name in the movie and in real life, She has several moments where something brutal happens in front of her, and she gets that dead-eyed stare. Like you can just see her innocence just chipping away.
James.
Even though the first time you see her, she's in a schoolyard fight.
Hey, James. Clementine will remember that. Thought you'd appreciate that callback.
Oh man,
I'm feeling spot on with references today. What can I say?
know that was awesome. That was perfect.
That's like a Telltale game. Yeah, like Miguel. Thankfully, he's not in the movie that much.
No, but I think that's what really made it worse. Is the fact that they made him such an important character without him doing much or saying much. But
I know
he can sure hit the hood of a car very well.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like he has the opposite problem of freaking egg-eating cop from the first one, where we see him way too much,
right?
And then the ultimate impact he has is very minimal. But I mean, that was kind of the point. In this case, we have a character we don't really see too much of, and then it's just like he suddenly becomes way too important, and clearly he wasn't supposed to be too important.
Right, because the way they structured the story, especially with him interacting with other people, it just felt like he was just a random story. It very similar to like the first one. I thought he'd be that a random character that we find out something and then something happens to him, and no, he's actually a very pivotal point of the movie.
Well, yeah, because the big payoff that pivots the movie, I was fine with. It's what happens, like with the character after, his big payoff happens, that it was kind of annoying. Because I mean, there was parts of it that worked for me, and there's parts of it that I'm like, and it mostly just has to do with the character, obviously being. It almost feels like they rewrote it to make sure this character was around to sequel bait.
Exactly.
Which is really frustrating. Yeah, I don't know how much more we can say about the plot at this point.
No, but okay. One thing I can say also about a great performance with Alejandro's moment. To me, like one of the moments that really stood out to me was that whole sequence when he was doing sign language.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's one of those ones that's like clear. It's not a big deal. It's not one of those dark moments. It's not a very profound moment in terms of the story, but it's just one of those things that was so well done that it stuck with you.
Well, yeah, because Benicio, he's very good when he's intense.
Right.
Which is why, it's so... he can do wacky in it well enough to a degree. I mean, he's pretty good in his minor role of the Collector in the Marvel movies. But, so of course, yeah, Thanos and the Collector at it again, right?
I know.
We should have said that earlier.
I know.
My headspace wasn't thinking about too much about that part, though. Maybe the Sicario universe is entirely like a reality gem plot from the Infinity Gauntlet.
Wow, now they were saying I forgot who said it, but it was supposed to be either the director or the writer said that this was like almost an alternate universe of the original Sicario, which makes no sense when you look at the connections from the first and the second movie.
No, yeah, because they're still fairly well connected.
Right. But now it's okay, maybe that's the alternate reality he was actually talking about.
That's probably what it is.
We were thinking that it was about the two movies that had the same name. No, it's the alternate reality between a Marvel movie and a Sicario movie.
Yeah, but my point was that Benicio is really intense in this, and it's great because like I said, intense Benicio is pretty much the best Benicio. He's pretty solidly intense in Traffic, one of the ones that got him in his Academy Award.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and he was super solidly intense in some of his other big performances. But yeah, that's the one that always even in. Do you remember him in Sin City?
Yes.
Yeah. he's just so intense, even as he plays a character who's actually dead.
Right.
And I'm just like, what? It's just great. But yeah, I don't know if there's too much. Well, Jeffrey Donovan was kind of forgettable in this one.
Yeah, very much so.
Which is a shame, because he's had some good performances.
Right.
This was just not one of them.
Yeah, I just don't think they had enough for him, and it was just one of those things.
Yeah, and Shea Wingham shows up again. By again, I mean he shows up in everything.
Yeah.
I just saw him. We're never gonna do a. I don't think we're gonna do a podcast on this episode, but I saw him in The Catcher Was a Spy.
Okay.
I think he was, and that came out pretty recently. That's the Paul Rudd real story about a catcher who was a spy during World War II.
Mm.
It's okay, but Shea Wingham shows up in that too, so he's like, like,
Sorry, Peter just gave the review of the movie that quickly. It's okay.
It's an interesting story, not told very well.
Oh.
The quality of the story makes up for the faults of the movie to a degree, but I still don't think, it's like, okay, like, Shea Wingham, last year alone, he was in Kong Skull Island, Death Note, and Wheelman.
Right.
And this year he's in Catcher Was a Spy, he's in Beirut, which I haven't seen, Sicario, and he's also in City of Lies and First Man. And that's just, movies. Like, I can't even imagine what he's, because in 2017, besides the 3 movies I mentioned, he was in whatever the heck Legend of Master Legend is. But he was also in a bunch of episodes of Fargo and a bunch of episodes of Narcos.
Yeah, and Narcos, yeah.
Yeah. Right, yeah, I keep forgetting he's in Narcos as well. So it's like, this guy just keeps getting so much work. Which is fine, because he's great, because he's like gruff-faced man. And, so, no, it's good to see him and stuff.
I think the big question to end this is, did this, as we already revealed, that it is definitely going to be a sequel after this, did this do enough for you to be excited for a sequel?
No, just because of how badly they set the sequel up.
Yeah.
Like, they shouldn't have set the sequel up.
No, not at all. Like, to me, like I said, they could have left it very much ambiguous and then had a sequel still.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing I forgot to mention. Like, it's a solid 2 hours, and it works pretty well.
Right.
Like, its runtime is pretty good. The general plot is absolutely, at worst, fine. It's just some of the elements, especially related to the sequel baiting, are terrible. And some of the performances, especially the ones related to characters who are, sequel baiting, are also pretty bad.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. And I guess we'll see if the sequel actually happens, because the movie's only made, I think, $40 million so far, and the budget was somewhere around that. So, I mean, because I'm trying to remember, I'm going to double check how much the original Sicario made. Yeah, here we go. I'm just going to check the box office numbers here.
It's right. I'm just looking. It's right under the budget right now.
Yeah.
At the bare minimum of the budget was 35.
Yeah, the first one was
sitting at 34.6.
There you go. And,
wow.
Yeah, and the first one was made for $30 million, and it would only cost $84.9. So I mean, yeah.
Other way around. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Look, I read numbers. I don't understand what they mean. I'm not Mr. Math Man.
Yes.
If you want somebody to talk about math and stuff, just get Neil deGrasse Tyson in here.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You would probably love that.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be so awesome. This dude started reciting rap lyrics in the middle of it, too.
Hell yeah. I think that about covers it, though. It's just...
Yeah, it's a solid movie. It's one of those ones that is unlike... it's very similar to The Incredibles, too, where you don't necessarily have to see the first one to really get the second one.
Yeah.
It just adds to it, having seen the first one. But it's definitely a little bit underwhelming when it comes to saying a solid finale and having a satisfying ending. Yeah,
it's really frustrating that sequel baits as hard as it does. But... that said, I still think it's better than some of the other movies we've seen recently.
Yeah. It's bad as it's reminiscent to me to Tomb Raider in terms of the sequel baiting ending, but it's so much better of a movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, than that.
Yeah, I think it's better than Tomb Raider. It's certainly better than Jurassic World.
That was another one I kind of like blocked out of my mind.
Right.
Yeah, Jurassic World had a big sequel bait moment too, and it's so much better than that.
Yep. I know this is the problem. It's like, because the sequel bait moments can just be so infuriating.
Right.
The Marvel movies kind of get away with it because we know it's an ongoing saga.
Right, right. They don't lie to you about it.
Yeah, like I think that's one of the reasons they can get away with that. I mean, it's also why they can get away with some other stuff, like characters being quippy, because it's kind of the universe they've established, right?
Right.
You run into problems then with characters trying to replicate it. It's like you have to think about the world you're in. In this case, Sicario, if people starting to get like super quippy in like a happy way, that would be weird.
It was so weird.
But, because this is such a dark... I mean, they're still kind of quippy at points, but it's usually dark humor or horrible humor that you probably shouldn't really laugh at.
Right. It's those moments, definitely.
Yeah. Like I'm saying, it's like, you probably don't want to laugh at some of the jokes Graver makes in particular.
But it's funny to him, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. I feel like he's gonna grow up to be a Jeff Bridges character. Like Jeff Bridges in what was that? Hell or High Water.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that's Graver's retirement plan. Just become Jeff Bridges in Hell or High Water. But yeah, no. So Sicario 2, definitely one of the better movies we've seen so far this summer, but definitely not up to the same level as some of the other ones we really loved either. Like I like
or to his predecessor.
Yeah, that's really the thing. Because like I said, I dropped those two big complaints I had about the original, but I still like the ending of the original a lot more.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the ending was one of my favorite parts, especially the scene, like the big scene that Benicio gets at the end when he finally confronts the one drug leader,
right,
and his family. Hey, remember I said it's a dark film? Yeah, you can do that stuff well, and that film definitely did it well. Yeah, but I think we're pretty much good to wrap.
Yeah.
I can hear you shuffling stuff in the background.
No, I'm just trying to... I'm still coming to grips with everything, that's all.
Uh-huh. And you just can't seem to hold on to it.
No, I cannot.
Come on, James, get a grip.
I feel like Troy Baker trying to get ready to film the Last of Us final scene.
Oh, God. What if he's... On that note, yeah, so that's it for this week. Thank you for being here as always, James.
Oh, thank you, Peter.
Yeah, and I feel like we've heavily foreshadowed what we're going to talk about next week now.
I know.
That wasn't even intentional, but it just kind of did.
No, it just came out of nowhere. It worked.
It's all good. Yeah, it's like I said, I'm feeling pop culture referencing today.